What up to my peoples, and welcome to Retro Crunch. If you didn't know by now, we are going to be getting a He-Man revival. This is not going to be a reboot or a remake. They're actually going to be continuing on the original series from the 1980s, and I couldn't be more excited. And we're going to talk about that right now. Just this Sunday, I was actually sitting on my computer, just playing around on the computer, looking through some old Twitter feeds, trying to find some cool retro news to talk about and stuff. And I saw something come across the feed that said that there was going to be a He-Man Revelations cartoon, animated cartoon, and Kevin Smith was going to be making it. And I flipped. I couldn't believe it. I actually clicked off of it, went on Google, typed it in, and I had to find out for myself to be sure because I thought I was getting trolled. And it turns out it's true. We are going to be getting a new He-Man TV show on Netflix. There's a PowerCon that's going on in Anaheim, California. And just on Sunday, they said that at this PowerCon, Kevin Smith was in attendance and announced a new animated He-Man and the Masters of the Universe revival series. Kevin Smith's going to be the showrunner, and he's going to be picking up with this show where it left off in 1985. And right after PowerCon, some news on the premise of the new Masters of the Universe show was also announced. And it seems like Teela might be one, if not the main character in the He-Man series, according to the premise. And I'll read off the premise to you guys right now. A radical return to Eternia, Revelation is a direct sequel series to the classic era of Masters of the Universe. Featuring fan favorites He-Man, Orko, Cringer, and Man-at-Arms, the story pits our heroic heroes and guardians of Castle Grayskull against Skeletor, Evil Lyn, Beastman, and the vile legions of Snake Mountain. But after a ferocious final battle forever fractures Eternia, it's up to Teela to solve the mystery of the missing Sword of Power in a race against time to prevent the end of the universe. Her journey will uncover the secrets of Grayskull at last. This is the epic He-Man and the Masters of the Universe saga fans have waited 35 years to see. So there's a lot of chatter online and in all the feeds on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere that's saying that Teela is going to be the main character of this new show, but I'm really not so sure about that. There is that possibility. I don't really know for sure, but if you break down the two paragraphs, the first part seems to say that at the beginning of the show, there's going to be a build-up and eventual epic battle between He-Man and Skeletor, and possibly Skeletor might actually win, which I actually love the idea of Skeletor finally winning in the end. I mean, ultimately, we want He-Man and even Teela to win, but if Skeletor could win, even if it's near the beginning of this first series season, that would be really cool because he has his due coming to him, right? And in the second paragraph, they state that Teela is going to go on a quest or something to save He-Man and the universe. What I get from this, or at least hope, is that the show will have both He-Man and Teela play important roles in the show. Everyone really wants He-Man, and Kevin Smith knows that he has to bring it, otherwise the fans are just going to go crazy, and I think that he's honestly going to deliver. And I want to see He-Man as the main character in this show just about as much as anybody. But Teela, she actually does have a side story or a story that could be a part of this that could be interesting. Now, we know that Sorceress is her mother. And there could possibly be a storyline about how Sorceress might die in the main battle at the beginning of the show. And Teela goes on a quest to either revive her, bring her back, or to save the universe. And in doing that, maybe she becomes the new Sorceress. And Teela, although she was never the main character for the story, she was raised by Man-at-Arms, and she is one of those characters that probably could be on the same level as He-Man in this series. And it would be really interesting to see what the story might be like with the dynamic of He-Man having his own little story and them telling that part of it, and Teela having her own journey or going on a quest and them telling a story about that. This doesn't mean that they have to concentrate only on He-Man or only on Teela. They could concentrate on both, and they could have two different side stories going on at the same time, which is what I hope is going to happen based on the information that we're given, that it's not going to go straight to being a story about Teela, and that at least we will be able to split up the show and have it about He-Man and get a side story about Teela, and find out if she ends up becoming the sorceress or what other storyline they might have planned for her. Now, something else that's unknown about this is, well, really, there's two things. One, I want to know what voices they're going to be using. Skeletor had a very iconic voice. So did He-Man. But I really loved Skeletor's voice, and I'm really interested to see who they're going to have play Skeletor or voice Skeletor. That's going to be real interesting. The three people that I really want to make sure that they do a good job with the voices is He-Man, Skeletor, and Orko. Those three, if they can do good with that, I'll be pretty happy with that. Now, on the other hand, the other thing that I really hope happens is I want it to have an 80s aesthetic, but I also really love the drawings in the comic book. So if they could take a little bit of both, like have it still look a little campy like the 80s, but use the more darker side like they did in the comics. I really loved Skeletor, and that was really, really great in the comics. And they drew He-Man very well in that as well, along with all the side casts. So that's what I hope to see. But I am really happy to say that the same animators that made the Netflix show Castlevania, they're going to be the same ones that are going to be making this new animated series. So that being said, I'm really happy to hear that. And this brings up She-Ra. So She-Ra. Now, we all know about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. As much as people might not like or even hate that show, I don't think this is going to be anything like that. I don't even think that it's going to tie in together at all. For one, Mattel is the ones that are making this with, of course, Netflix, but then the creative team that did Castlevania. Now, with She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, that was done by Netflix and DreamWorks. And they had a total different iteration of what they envisioned She-Ra to look like with the woke version that they went with. Whether you're into that or not, I don't know. But regardless, I still do not believe that this is going to be on the same wavelength as the She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I think that it's going to more be like and relate to what we remember from the 80s and what we remember He-Man being like in the 80s, as far as the aesthetic, as far as the voices, as far as the storyline, all of that. I think Kevin Smith is going to do a good job. I'm predicting that he will also do everything that he can to be in line with the way that we remember watching it, seeing it, and envisioning it from the 80s. So I want to know what you guys think. Are you real anxious to see this new He-Man series that's going to be a continuation from the original series that ended in 1985? Also, what do you guys think? Do you think Netflix is maybe possibly going to be doing any more series like this in the future? I would really like to see something like Silverhawks or Mask. You never know. Or Thundercats. Thundercats would probably be my next pick, the one that I think could possibly happen. So, don't know if that's what will happen in the future. It might be a couple years before they go down that road, but I could see it being the obvious progression for Netflix in the future. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I will catch you guys on the flip side, and remember, if it ain't retro, it ain't worth watching.